So if you're a creator of any kind or a creative of any kind, and you want to develop your unique style, a distinct thing about you, like all great artists, I've discovered something I want to share with you. When I think about people who have a distinct signature, a unique flavor, I realize that these people do three things, all of them. And I will challenge anyone watching this, to think about people that you admire, creators and creatives and artists that you admire who have this unique thing about them, and see if you can test this with them. Like think about them and think, does this stand or not? Okay. So the first thing is they're really good at their craft. That's the first thing. All right. You cannot tell me you can be a great artist without being really good at your craft. But to have a unique, distinct style that is really yours, the first thing is you've got to master the basics of whatever the heck it is that you do. Okay. That's the first thing. You can't be somebody who has a unique, distinct musical, flair, and you don't master the basics of making music, or cook something that is uniquely yours, but you can't even not burn a cake to save your life. So like you've got to master the basics. You've got to, and that's what it means to be really good at your craft. To be really good at your craft is that you've mastered the basics really, really well. To be a great business person, believe it or not, is not about knowing all the crazy widgets that you can install on a website and all the nuances of, I don't know, what a color of a button does. That's not it. It means to have mastered the basics of business, right? That's what it is. Like the basics done really, really well is what makes you excellent. So that's the first thing, become really good at a craft. The second thing is they've got eclectic inspirations. They're not this one dimensional person who only listens to other people that they consider competitors in their field and copies them or tries to one up them. You'll never find a great artist, a great creator, a great anything who is just looking at people who are doing something similar and trying to do better. That's never the case. That's the mindset of a fucking entrepreneur, business person who comes into the market and is like, where is a hole that I can plug myself to make some money? Nothing wrong with that. And I still want you to be an entrepreneur if you're watching this. I think being an entrepreneur goes hand in hand with being an artist, because we're not in the business of starving as artists. But your eclectic inspirations is what makes you interesting, what makes you, just an interesting human being. Before you even become an interesting artist, just an interesting person to be around, is that you're somebody who's open-minded and curious about different things. So that's why beginners or outsiders do really well when they go in business in a new field, because they're bringing things that are not thought of in their field. Like they're bringing stuff that other people haven't thought of because they're an outsider. So it's the same thing. Like you've got to think like an outsider. If you're making music, get your inspiration from away from music. If you're a content creator, get your inspiration from musicians. If you're and here's the thing, there are no rules. This is about following the breadcrumbs of desire. I believe the universe is telling you exactly where to look. The universe is telling you, it's telling you, you are encoded. Those desires are causative. The reason why something fascinates you or interests you is because you are seeing a reflection of yourself, your true self, in the damn thing. That's what an inspiration is. It's like there's part of you that recognizes, ooh, that's me. I don't know how, but that's me. And I know some of you might be watching this and going, well, the being has nothing to do with these things. The being has nothing to do with the doing. You know the being through the doing. You know the being through the action. But whatever, that's a different topic for a different day. I really don't like getting lost too much in like the mind stuff, and thinking about spirituality and like spiritual one-upping is not something I'm interested in. I'm very open to being wrong about these concepts. We're all trying our best to just understand these things and like try to define them and whatever. But point is, I believe, and I actually know this to be true from my personal experience, but you can just test this for yourself. When you get an inspiration for something, when something is exciting to you, like a color is exciting to you, or a texture, or you get a pull, an intuitive a pull to follow something or do something, and you do it, there's usually something really good for you on the other side that you have no idea. There was no way for you to consciously figure that out. Like the universe it's like literally being like, look here, there is a reason why this is interesting to you. Look here, look here. It's like you're the universe playing peekaboo with yourself. Think of it that way. It's almost like, maybe even literally, like you have made an agreement with yourself at some point that you're going to show up and play this game, and be like, peekaboo, 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 look here, look here, look here. And that desire, that interest, that pull is trying to get your attention. Okay. So artists, creative people, which is everyone, they have very sensitive antennas. So they're constantly listening to that. They're not following, just desires blindly. It's not like desires that are coming from emptiness or from like wanting to fill a void or anything. Not that. It's a genuine inspiration. So that's what creates this eclectic mix, this interesting sauce, right? This spice that you sit with a person, you're like, wow, like there's something really interesting about this person. That's because that person is mixing all sorts of things that are completely unexpected. Everything in the universe is connected, and somehow they become the manifestation of this connection. So we said become really good at a craft, eclectic inspirations, and then the third thing is they create whatever the heck they want. You'll never find an artist with a unique style or perspective who creates just for what the audience wants or just for what the world wants. They create the things they want. They create the music they want to listen to. They create the content they want to watch. They write the book they believe should exist. They create the products and services in their business that they believe the world needs of. Whatever it is that they do, it doesn't matter. They do what they believe. They have a vision for what they want to create, and they create what they want. And this, my friend, requires so much inner work. And everything that I talked about is actually, this is the path of self actualization and self transcendence. This is the spiritual work. It's not the mind stuff. It's not the sitting around freaking circles and talking endlessly about, you know, blah 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 blah. And I'm in a past life I was this, and then I was a witch, and then I was that, and then I was whatever. That maybe that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with having these kinds of things. But blabbering about it and talking about how in a past life you were like in Atlantis and then like the stars and then 5D and then 3D and I'm getting fucking cross-eyed. Like, how do you know? I don't know. I just know. Okay, cool. Why are we discussing this? All because it makes me feel special. And then we can like rub each other's spiritual eggplants and talk about how cool we are and stuff and like how we are so like connected to spirit. Meanwhile, like not doing the inner work, which is get the fuck out there to 3D, which you look down upon and think is not that great because you belong in 5D. Well, you're here for a reason. So get off your beautiful fucking ass, go do some work, go create. The real way to actually work on yourself and refine yourself as a spiritual being is to kick yourself in the butt and create, to create what you came here to create. And that's, my friend, when you're going to face all kinds of fears, doubts, traumas, pains. I can't even tell you the kind of spiritual shit you're going to have to uncover. That's the spiritual work. You want to talk about spirituality? That's spirituality. To have to become really good at a craft means you have to practice patience, means you have to practice self-compassion, means you have to sit with the present moment. You have to be mindful when you're washing dishes. You have to be mindful of washing dishes. Do you know how fucking hard it is to just be present? Do you know how hard it is just to practice focus? Okay, eclectic inspirations. You want to go follow your inspiration. You want to, your part of you is like, you know what, I want to sit in nature and meditate on blah blah blah, or I want to go to a museum and I want to consume some art, and there's a voice that's going to be like, you suck, you should be more productive, you should be working right now, what are you doing, blah 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 blah. And then to compassionately lead yourself through that and go do the thing, or vice versa, right? There's part of you that's like, you know what would be really cool right now? I want you to scroll YouTube shorts for 5 hours. But then there's this other voice that's like, no, actually, you said you were going to work on your business right now, so you're going to do that. No, you said you're going to work out, so you're going to do that. That's spiritual work. Creating what you really want. Don't even get me started on the fears, the doubts, the voices, the things that are going to come up when you want to create what you really want. What the hell do you even want? Just to figure that out, that clarity is work, is inner work. So it takes a lot of work to get to your authentic self. It's not the simple, I just show up, I'm lazy, and this is who I am, and I don't make any effort, and people should love me the way that I am because I'm perfect. And that's true. Yes, and because truth is paradoxical. Yes, and by the way, what I was saying earlier about people sitting in circles and talking about 5D or whatever, That was kind of mean the way that was probably kind of mean the way that I did it, but I get frustrated, and this is my work, right? This is where I need to do some work on myself. Is I get annoyed with people who talk about these things but aren't willing to do the work. Because I sat in so many of these circles with people who claim to be spiritual, and they just can't stop talking about how, like this one guy who was like, I've ascended to 6D, but he's like, so he has no control over his anger. And I was just like, anyway, whatever. Like, the real work is to refine ourselves. This is what spirituality is. It's to refine ourselves, not from a place of feeling like we are not good enough, but from a place of knowing that this is our work, and to be able to sit with the darker sides of ourselves that we don't perceive to be um, very lovable, and observe them with love while simultaneously seeing the truth that is really uncomfortable. So you see something about yourself and you don't like it, and you go, I desire to be better. I desire to do better. It's not because I'm broken. It's not because there's something wrong with me, but I want to do better. So you go and do better while simultaneously loving yourself, even though you don't like the thing that you're observing. That's the work. Okay, I'm reading from my notes. Next thing I wanted to say about all this is that, like I said, when you do those things together, that's your inner work. That's the work. And you start to realize that nothing is random. None of it is random. The self that you're presenting, the mask that you're wearing, is the byproduct of an accumulation of programmings from millions of years, or at least hundreds of thousands of years, if we're talking like human form. So your ancestors, your great 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 grandparents. Think of all the generations that have programmed the next generation, next generation, next generation, next generation. So each one is clearing some parts, clearing some masks. But no matter how much work you do in a lifetime, you're always going to have some parts of the mask, and you're always going to have some of that stuff. So you're never going to completely clean it up and clear it up and be your authentic self 24/7 for the rest of your life. There's always going to be a little bit of ego mask, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful. The ego is a good thing. It's not this bad thing that we're supposed to kill. Another thing that frustrates me about spiritual conversations and communities is the talk about the ego like it's a terrible thing that we need to kill. There's nothing to kill. Okay, so what's the goal from all this? Here's the goal. If you forget yourself, you become the universe. So if you forget yourself long enough, you'll remember that you are the universe. This is what happens when you are in a state of flow, when you're creating that magic when somebody is creating something that makes them feel alive, when you're witnessing somebody create something beautiful, jazzing and creating something just magnificent. And I don't know that I have the words to explain it, but you know it when you see it. You know it when you see it, when somebody is lost in their craft and they're so good at it and they love it, and you can sense all kinds of interesting inspirations that got them there, but you can't quite pinpoint it very easily. But then if you do, you're like, I got it. Like, it's not an easy thing the style is not an easy thing to describe in like one or two words. That's copying. That's not stealing. True stealing is when the style is so there's a difference between, like, you slap one ingredient or two ingredients, it's pretty obvious what these two ingredients are, and they're very expected, versus when you marinate multiple things in eclectic sauce that is very hard to pinpoint. But when you do guess it, you feel like you've been let in on a secret, while simultaneously witnessing somebody create something so beautiful and being so good at the craft. And they're lost in the present moment. And you're like, yes, that's it. That's it. That's what we want, is to be present. We want to be present in that state of flow. So when we are in that state, we forget ourselves, this self, we forget it, and we remember we are the universe. For a brief moment, there is nothing to gain and nothing to lose. And it's the best feeling in the universe. It's the best feeling in the universe. If you know what it's like to be in a state of flow, can't. again, it's, that's it. This is the note I'm going to end the video on, because there's nothing to say beyond this except this: never forget that you are the universe. There is a unique expression of the universe that can only come alive through you. I will see you next time.